What's up, everybody? This is your host with the most, Philly Jim, coming at you guys with another episode of the Linc'd In Podcast, now the official flagship of Sideline Sports Network, covering the Philadelphia Eagles. And we have a lot of things that we need to get to tonight. Without further ado, let me welcome my co-host, Lindy, to the stage. What's going on, Lindy? What's up?
Well, looks like I'm adding to the score of Sideline Sports. In here for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Eagles, one video at a time, as I always do. But we got a job to do over here. I'm ready to get at it.
Yes, sir. We definitely got a job to do. So last week, I believe it was when the Philadelphia Eagles and the rest of the NFL got their schedule. So you know which games are which. Week 1, it all starts in Detroit. So, and I have the thing blocking the schedule, so let me take that off. So we're starting off with the Detroit Lions. Then we got the Minnesota Vikings for the home opener. Washington football team, now the Commanders. We are playing Carson Wentz for the first time since he has gone and did his stuff elsewhere. Then you got the Jaguars, Doug Peterson, a homecoming. Then you got the Cardinals on the road, Dallas Cowboys, bye week 7, Steelers at the Texans. Carson Wentz's official return to Philly is on a Monday night game. So, yeah, that atmosphere might be a little crazy. Then you got the Colts, the Packers, the Titans, the Giants, Bears, Cowboys on Christmas Eve. Then you got the Saints and the Giants to finish out the season. So we're really looking forward to this schedule. Looking forward to seeing what the team's gonna do, man. But I'll be honest, there's not a whole lot that scares me about this schedule whatsoever. Obviously, you got to win your divisional games. Green Bay is a tough team. I think the Colts will be pretty tough. I think Minnesota has talent, so they'll be off. But overall, I'm not too scared about it, which is why I think the NFC East is right there for the taking for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I can see us winning 11 or 12 games without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the clearest thing that I can look at is you want to elevate your expectations from last year. The team winning 9 games seemed that far of a stretch when everybody had them winning 6 or below through the predictions. But going into this year with all the changes that the Eagles have done, it's more than fair to say that they should at least be 2 wins or better, all things considered. Just with the quality of players that they have added. We're looking at, based on last year's records, that the Eagles have the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL, and you take that with a grain of salt. But just all things considered, yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole, like you said, I don't think there's a whole lot of teams that I'm in fear of either. Aaron Rodgers is probably the only elite quarterback that we're going to face. Green Bay is always tough when we face them. And we can break it down if we want game by game, but from a general perspective, yeah, I mean, for me, the floor is 10 or 11 games, and I don't think I can go any lower than that.
I don't either, barring catastrophic injuries, knock on wood. But yeah, I mean, I think it's all there for the taking. Let's pull up the schedule one more time. A couple of games I want to point out. So obviously, the divisional games are important. I think both games against the Cowboys, you're going to have to win those games. You're going to have to win both those games. You can't have any slip-ups in the division, kind of like last season. You saw that the game against the Giants. Can't have any games like that. Got to go to as close to undefeated in the division as possible. And I also think playing it against Green Bay, playing against Aaron Rodgers is a game that you really need to focus on winning as well, because as far as with the NFC race. You're talking about potential seeding, and he is an elite quarterback. He's a back-to-back MVP of the last 2 years. So this is a game that you're getting close to that home stretch of the season, and you really want to make a statement to the league that you're for real. This is the game to do it.
Yeah, if you think about it, when you take the division into consideration, 6 of your 17 games are against your division, and ideally, if you have the Eagles coming out of the NFC East 5-1, and really the only team I have them splitting with is Dallas, since we're always in competition with them year in and year out on who's the top dog in the division, but nonetheless, I mean that's why your division is as crucial as it is to really take advantage and pile up those wins, so you can focus on the rest of your opponents in the NFC and the AFC conferences.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Other than that, probably the Carson Wentz return. That game's going to have a crazy atmosphere. He's coming in back into the Link.
Hmm.
We all know the way that it ended for him in Philly. So, we also saw Ben Simmons wasn't even playing, and, they were walking up to this guy on the street and, saying stuff to him when he's getting off the bus. So, like, it probably won't be that bad, but they will let him know. They will definitely be giving him a warm welcoming, if you know what I mean. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that game plays out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the time that Carson Wentz has been here, the Eagles have had plenty of intel on him in the past, and going over game by game basis of film rooms, and I'm sure they still have some of that information, on who Carson is as a quarterback, and as we have watched over the years of him being, the leader of our franchise for what it's worth, he's not very he's not very good under pressure, and he gets overwhelmed pretty quickly if you ramp the pressure up, and we got quite the personnel to give them that kind of business. So
I absolutely agree.
the first yeah, so I mean the first game when you have the schedule up, I believe it's at home. Washington comes to us first before we go to their home turf, or if it's the other way around, I don't know,
It's the
but
other way around. We're going to there. We're
yeah,
going to Washington week 3, and then it's week 10. They come to
that's
Philly.
right.
It's a Monday night game.
But nonetheless, how often have we seen Philly take over FedEx Field the way the
Yeah,
way
it's
that
basically
they
a
have
home game.
had over the course of time, especially when the home team isn't that good in that point in time. But yeah, no, I'm really not worried about Washington. They have made some great additions, and bringing in Jahan Dotson out of the draft to pair him with Terry McLaurin. But last we knew about Terry, he wasn't completely satisfied with being in Washington and maybe skipping some of the voluntary practices and all the rumors surrounding that. But, you know, Ron Rivera has, invested quite a lot into bringing him and bringing Carson to Washington. So there's going to be a lot of, payoff that has to happen.
Yeah, totally agree. And, that's pretty much it as far as the schedule. We're going to move on to our next topic. And that was the biggest news of this week was the Eagles announcing the signing of cornerback James Bradberry. And I think we had
Mhm.
this conversation in previous shows or previous streams where we were like, it looks pretty good on paper on defense, but what are you gonna do? Like you have Slay, obviously, who we have confidence in, but it's all these other young undrafted guys that Zach McPherson, Josh Jobe, all these Tay Goen, all these young guys that they brought in that you know played in that last game against the Cowboys because we had our seating locked up. Didn't really show anything. It didn't show any real promise whatsoever. So that's why it was such a major concern. What were you going to do? And then you end up signing James Bradberry, who James Bradberry signed up a deal that's worth up to $10 million. I believe it's at $7.5 million, but up to $10 million in incentives. If he reaches all incentives, he'll get $10 million.
Yeah, two and a half of
dollars.
those, yes.
So you know what? I think it's a great move, and for the price that they paid to get it, I think it was well worth it. I think he's an upgrade. I think he's an upgrade over Steven Nelson last year, and he's just kind of a big physical guy. He's a good man-to-man corner, and I think he can stick with some of these bigger body type of wide receivers. I think he's a big physical corner, and I also think that with Darius Slay, he's kind of like the quicker guy between the two guys. So I feel like there's two skill sets complement themselves in the same way as, like, if you get a receiver that's got speed and stretches the defense, and then you get like a big physical jump ball receiver. I think it's kind of the same thing with these two guys and how they complement each other as two great defensive backs. So huge upgrade for us, and our defense is looking very, very good right now.
Well, yeah. Well, I would argue that Slay's a little more athletic than Bradberry. I mean, Slay can handle he can go with the 4-4, the 4-3 runners, as opposed to James, who can handle the 4-5s and the 4-6s. And that was one thing that you had to watch when he got released by the Giants, since they couldn't find a trade partner, and I think he got dumped on May 9th. Howie Roseman's not going to make a move just to make a move. He knows how the free agency works by now. And while it was a gamble at the time, you had to imagine that, with him getting released and, not finishing out his contract, the Giants still owe a little over $12 million. And, between James and his agent, they're thinking, well, right now we're not in a position to try and get another long-term deal. So your best bet's probably to go on a prove-it deal for close to the asking price of what you're looking for. And that's probably what deterred most of the rest of the teams that have shown interest in wanting to sign him, because the price was a little bit high. It was up to 11 teams that showed interest, and then him and his agent narrowed it down to 3. And he ultimately chose Philadelphia. Well, I think one of the reasons is the fact that it's a perfect scheme fit for what he is proficient at. One reason that they also had to move on from James, that is the New York Giants, is that with them switching defensive coordinators to Wink Martindale coming over from the Ravens, Wink runs a lot of man coverage schemes. So that doesn't really suit as to what Bradberry is ultimately good at. And as you look at when the Eagles first started the season last year, they were running zone coverage about 91% of the time, until they had to ultimately switch when you had injuries to, you had the injury to Brandon Graham, which, hurt the run defense as bad as it was. And then, a lot of those things built up in them having to switch to man coverage just so, just for extra protection in the, in the secondary, and watching the first and the second levels to really limit what the opposing offense was able to do in terms of the run game. And then that would improve their play action and, the domino effect of crap rolling downhill. So that's part in why Bradberry makes so much sense. So Not only do you have a compatible corner on the opposite side of Slay on the outside, well, that's one less person that the opposing offense can target, much like they were trying to with Steven Nelson, and trying to throw his way most of the time to really exploit him. And that's part of why our safety position also struggled, because of that added protection to Steven Nelson's side. So really, that's just going to add a harder time in these opposing offenses that we're going to be going against, to have somebody that they can continue to take advantage of. It's not gonna be as easy as it was before.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And James Bradberry, huge upgrade for the secondary outside of Slay. So now you don't really have to worry about teams looking at the other side and saying, hey, you know what? Let's just attack that side and keep doing it and doing it and doing it. So I think it's a great situation. I think he's in a better scheme, like you mentioned. And most of all, I mean, you got to look at the guys that's rushing the passer. It's like I brought this up a million times already, but we won the Super Bowl with Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby as our starting two corners. The reason why we did that was because we had a great pass rush. these guys are way more capable than Mills and Darby combined. We all know that. So you got two guys that has done it at the highest level or a pretty high level because they've both been Pro Bowlers and all that kind of stuff. These guys are going to be feasting because the big guys up front, they're going to be getting after quarterbacks. They're going to be forcing errant decisions. And guys like Slay and Bradberry on the back end, they're going to be on the receiving end on a lot of interceptions, I believe.
Yeah, it's just going to continue to add to the value of competition, especially in the cornerback room. You mentioned all those guys before, like Tay Gowan and Kerry Vincent Jr. and Josh Jobe and Mario Goodrich coming out of the UDFAs, who were draftable players, but because of the amount of corners because of the amount of quality corners that came out of the draft class, and some other things that may push that specific player out from being draftable, then the Eagles get in a position where it's a good problem to have when you have the amount of bodies that you do, because it's just going to elevate the competition in the room. Guys are going to want to fight their way up the depth chart and get some experience on the field that they truly want and need to allow themselves to have a career in the NFL and not searching for a team and through free agency or on the waiver wire. So
yeah, absolutely agree. But I guess we both agree that it was a really good move for the Eagles. And I think, I don't think we have to worry too much about that as much as we did. Moving on to another signing that the Eagles made this week, Mr. Carrick Wheatfall from the Boise State, or what was it, Fresno State, I believe.
Fresno, yes.
Yeah, Fresno State. So he's
same school as Devontae Adams, I believe.
Yeah. Can he beat Devontae Adams? Not so sure about that. Best way to put it, guys that can't body. You got like guys like Deion Kane and Devin Allen and all these different guys that they brought in. Britton Covey. They're going to be bringing in to compete, but you still got Jalen Reagor. You got you know what? It's just going to be a weird competition. We know who our top three receivers are. We don't even have to say it. We know who they are. And the rest of that's when it kind of gets like tricky. Like, who's going to be that fourth guy? Is it going to be Reagor? Is it going to be someone else? Is it going to be Greg Ward? Is it going to be one of these, guys that hasn't emerged yet that they brought in undrafted free agents? He's a can't body. I've seen some of his plays. He's got pretty good hands. I think they were kind of impressed by him, or maybe not impressed, but more intrigued when they seen him in that workout when he was training with the team. I believe he was here during the rookie mini camp, and that's when they had like a little tryout, and he made the team. So you know what? He gets his opportunity. Maybe he can showcase some good things in preseason. In preseason games, that's where a lot of these guys are really going to get their real opportunities, because you probably ain't going to make the team in Philadelphia, but if you show enough in preseason, guys get picked up all the time after they get cut by another team. Your opportunity is still there. So I think that he's pretty much a can't body, but it is a little intriguing, or the team was a little bit intrigued by him.
Yeah, again, following the idea of a good problem to have when you're talking about the cornerback room, it kind of sets it up pretty well for the receivers as well. When you're looking at guys who seem to be specialists in one aspect of the game, where Devon Allen and Britton Covey coming in, primarily for maybe more of a special teams like kick or punt returning, just because of their speed and twitchiness on the field and how quick they're able to change direction. And maybe sometimes they'll have them just go on a deep go route, or if the opportunity presents itself to them, and making the cut to the final 53. But when you talk about Carrick Wheatfall and him being added to the group, well, as we know, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside ended up changing from receiver to tight end, so now he's in a different positional group. And Carrick comes in as more of a John Hightower. He's like a John Hightower type of build. They share a lot of the same characteristics in that regard. But again, like you said, if he's going to be, he's going to be a possible candidate for the practice squad, and hopefully we don't have to dig that deep into the roster, much like the last some of the last few years that we've seen where players go down from injury and we have to bring these guys in, much like Carson in 2019 where he was thrown to Walmart associates, as we used to joke with all the time. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, it's with the amount of bodies that the Eagles are building up in these positional groups, it's a good problem to have. Competition is always healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Competition makes teams better.
Mm-hmm.
Iron sharpens iron. So another thing I want to kind of bring out, because I think that's a good segue into conversation I want to have. So James Brand, and I put a post up about this on my community board. You got two great duos now on both sides of the ball. You have AJ and Devontae on offense. On defense, you have James and Big Play Slay. So, and we've already seen videos of Devontae Smith and Darius going at each other, like Darius playing receiver and Devontae playing corner. They were doing that last year. It was a fun little competitive thing they used to do, and they brought it back in OTAs. So obviously, like, I think the relationship that those guys has is really, really good. They definitely love working with each other. But the other thing is, I just think that when you look at both of these, when you look at this group of players that we have, these duos of these two guys, this is going to be great. It's going to be great for the team because, it's not like Devontae's going up against some bums that don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's going up against guys in practice every single day that can help him get better. Kind of like when he was in Alabama. When he was in Alabama, he had Patrick Surtain, who was a first-round draft pick by the Denver Broncos. And now he's got Slay and he's got Bradberry. So those guys have been around the league. They can help him out as a young receiver. You also got A.J. Brown that's, not too much older than him, but he's an established star that can also coach him up. So I feel like
he's only 24.
Yeah, he's only 24. He's only a couple years older, but he's been there and done that, and he can help Devontae as well. So I feel like Devontae is now in a situation where he's really, really going to thrive. And I think that, it won't be surprising to see AJ and Devontae both go over 1,000 yards this season. I think Devontae Smith is taking the next step this year, no question.
Yeah, it's like trying to strike diamonds together. It's like what much more can you do with these groups, and not only focusing on the receivers and you focusing on the cornerbacks, and not just them helping their respective positional groups, but you look at the duo between Smith and AJ Brown and what they're going to be able to do with each other. And Smitty's not going to have to face the number one corner constantly, and depending on how the defense schemes for our offense, on a weekly basis, you're not going to see Smith. You're not going to see the number one corner lined up on Devontae all the time, because now they have to respect AJ Brown. I don't think these defenses respected anyone else on this offense other than Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. So that doesn't put us in the greatest of situations. Now you have to account for AJ Brown, who is excellent in the short field, because that's a spot where he thrives. And now you can flex Smith out to the Z. You can run Quez in the slot, have him at the Y spot. So it's just a nice recipe for success there. And then in terms of the corners, you're almost giving them the best of the best on what you're able to provide, between Slay and Bradberry. in terms of Bradberry, if he's going up against AJ Brown, that's just gonna enhance his ability to play man coverage a little bit better, something that he's a little bit weaker at, being that he made his money, he made his pay dirt as being a really good zone corner. So again, it's another good problem to have, and and then intangibly, I don't think any of these guys are all that egotistical, in trying to say that,
No, they're
I'm better
not.
than you, and there's none of that kind of negativity,
We have a bunch
for
of guys that
the
want to win.
yeah. Yeah, it's excellent, and and aside from, you got to give Sirianni credit for putting this kind of foundation in, and being being one for all, and yeah, it's just a great overall situation right now.
Yeah, speaking of that, Jeremiah leaves a comment. Thanks for watching, Jeremiah. I think Quez and Dallas benefit the most from this duo, he says.
Hmm.
I think Quez is going to rock out this year, and hopefully they do not play Mr. Jalen Reagor at the slot receiver or the third receiver position. I completely agree. I mean, I think that we're not even bringing up Dallas Goedert's name when we're talking about that's how good I think this duo has potentially to be, because if you're focused on AJ and Devontae, that's great, but what are you going to do about Dallas Goedert? Dallas Goedert's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He's a yak monster. He's huge. He's athletic. He can go up and get the ball, and it can just cause hell for defenses. And Quez had a very quiet, really good season last year, around 600 and something yards, and a few touchdowns. So he did pretty good. That was just with him and Devontae and Dallas out there as the main pass catchers. So
Yeah.
bringing in another guy that's gonna take the attention off him, people are not gonna be thinking about Quez Watkins, and that's when Quez is just gonna blow right by you, and next thing you know, he's gonna be open for a 30 or 40-yard gain.
Well, unfortunately, with the lack of depth that we had last year, I still think they're going to respect Quez a little bit. Being that he has put out plenty of tape for defenses to consider. But it's commendable at the same time on him starting in a dysfunctional team year one, and then really improving on that with getting his mind clear and not having to worry about all these external types of distractions. And he comes into year two and he becomes a pretty viable weapon for the value that he was as a 6th-round pick. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, AJ Brown is he's not only benefiting the quarterback, but he's doing wonders for everybody else that lines up with him on the field at the same time.
Got another comment from Puerto Rico that says Britton Covey is a slept-on secret, and we can't keep dismissing that need. I totally agree with you. I think that he is a slept-on secret. He's one of the most highest, of these guys that just got brought in that people are bringing on. They're like, hey, you guys better watch out for him. You guys better watch out for him. Very explosive player. Very explosive player. And that is another reason that I believe I've brought this up in the past already, but I'll bring it up again. This spells trouble for Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, the main place he could really separate himself as a part of this team. Obviously, we know he's probably not going to be the guy that we drafted him to be in the first round. We know that. But what value can he bring to the team still? Special teams, kickoff returners. So not only do you bring in Devin Allen, who's an Olympian hurdler and a sprinter, and he's got outrageous speed as well. He's an Olympian for crying out loud. Then you have this guy who's also extremely explosive, and he was dangerous with the ball in his hands on a lot of these kickoff returns. So on special teams for Jalen Reagor, it's not just like he can just chill and he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm a pretty fast dude. I've been on special teams. I know how to do this. You can't do that, man. You can't do that.
No.
You got to step it up on special teams and on offense. So right now, I think that as a part of the guys being on a bubble of this roster, Jalen Reagor's got arguably the most pressure on him.
Yeah, it's really a shame, the fact that him being the Eagles' first round pick, and again, just regurgitating the disgusting fact that he was taken over Justin Jefferson. We don't have to go back there because
the only reason I'm not still upset about it is because we have AJ. We have AJ and Devontae now.
Yeah,
it's the only reason.
It's water under the bridge at this point, but it's just a shame. And one of the biggest things with the fact of what he put on tape was he was one of TCU's only reliable weapons in terms of explosiveness and what he was able to do with the football in his hands in terms of short area quickness and twitchiness at the speed that Reagor does have. I mean, he does have those things. It's not like he got wiped of them all in a Space Jam movie. He still has it, but it's the fact that he did not take this from. He did not take it into a professional standpoint and not letting pressure overwhelm him and having to be one of those guys at that point in time when he was drafted. And, unfortunately, him suffering a quarterback carousel at TCU didn't help either. But nonetheless, when you're talking about technicalities to his game, it's a shame that for as fast as he is, he's just not a very good route runner. He can't create separation for himself. He's not physical enough. He gets overwhelmed by corners and man coverage when they're pressing at the line of scrimmage. So that's a lot of things that gets in the way of what makes a wide receiver good. And unfortunately, Reagor was subjected to that, and now he has to fight for some of the snaps that he got when he was a rookie and in year 2.
The only thing that could save him is Howie Roseman. He's the only one.
Pretty much.
Because I'm not saying anything disrespectful to Howie, because I know a lot of people in the comment section are going to say, Howie's been great this offseason, and he certainly has been. But we cannot forget that Howie has a history of, talking to the coaches and saying, "Oh, we got to give Whiteside playing time because we took him in the second round. We took Reagor in the first round." So I feel like in terms of his ability, like if I was running, I'm just speaking from the standpoint that if I was running the organization or if I was in Nick Sirianni's position, that's what I would do. I would keep the best players and I would get rid of the best players, even if you're drafted in the first round or not. But, they're going to say, look at Brandon. Like, I've heard people bring up the Brandon Graham comparison. Brandon Graham was not off to a good start when he started, and now he's considered, obviously, a franchise legend with that strip sack. But people are bringing up that comparison, and I just don't see it happening. And he's just up against a lot. I don't see him having that kind of resurgence, but Howie Roseman could get in the way and just say, you know what? We took this guy in the first round. We're going to, at least give him another year. And then we'll be having the same conversation next year. 3 years of being a very disappointing first-round pick, and we'll be talking about when can we get rid of this guy.
The biggest problem that, Howie's going to end up facing is the longer you keep him on this roster and the less he makes of an opportunity to show his value and produce for himself, you're not going to have much in terms of trade collateral. You're not going to be able to trade him at all. So you might as well, you're better off probably giving him a fresh start sooner rather than later if he can't take the initiative to put it upon himself to say, well, you know what? I mean, they're bringing in some undrafted guys. There's, lower tier guys out of the draft, sixth rounders, fifth rounders, whatever the case may be. And I have to be in competition with these people. Well, he should take it as a sign of disrespect. And well, with him just deleting everything on his Twitter and going completely blank like that, I don't know. And then yet he's still involved in some pictures, with these guys at OTAs taking photos and like, what are you doing? So
he's got a big cheesy smile on his face, man.
he's hurt. He's hurting himself right now, and how he's hurting himself by keeping him longer than he should be here. Granted, it's hard to give up on a first round pick that early, and one of the only arguments that you can have against that is Andre Dillard because he's still here. But an offensive lineman, especially the tackle spots, they're worth more than a wide receiver. So that's the other thing that you can put against it. But
that's probably why Dillard's still here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, come on, Rager's got to do something or just pull the plug, before Howie has no trade value left in him.
Yeah, and I mean, there was interest from some teams. One of the teams was Baltimore
for a safety.
They spoke, yeah, and that that's a position that's still up in the air for us. Yes, our corner position is solidified now, but what about on that back end? I trust Anthony Harris to do his thing because he was kind of helping guys out last season, making a lot of the calls on the defense because he had experience in that particular system with Jonathan Gannon because that's what they had in Minnesota. But the thing is, I'm just not sure if you're really comfortable with the guys that you have back there. Come on, Wallace. Marcus Epps. People have been saying, Marcus Epps might be good enough, guys, and he could be. But we're going to see how the team really does feel about him because I feel like this was a good opportunity to get rid of Rager and address a need. Chuck Clark's a very versatile player. With Baltimore, they were moving him all over the field. And that's the type of players that the Eagles love. That's why they loved Malcolm Jenkins. Because he wasn't just a safety. He was more of a weapon. He was a defensive weapon because you could line him up at linebacker, line him up at corners, safety, single high. You could put him in the box. He could do everything. And that's kind of what Chuck Clark gets. That's what he brings to the table. And I feel like that's the type of player you would be getting with Chuck Clark. It just makes all the sense in the world. And, the depth chart receiver for the Ravens is not looking too good after they traded Marquise Brown to the Arizona Cardinals. So I don't know, man. I feel like that trade would have been perfect. If I was Howie, I would call the Ravens back.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument to be made there, and in terms of us Eagles fans and really us pulling the plug on Rager before the organization did, we think of it as addition by subtraction. One of the only things that I can say that's probably against the Chuck Clark idea, and I know, shocking, right? Well, why don't you want to upgrade the safety position? Okay, no, we understand that the Ravens are in a better spot now than they were with just Chuck Clark, especially with the additions of Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton. And, well, as we know, Marcus Williams chose Baltimore over Philly, even though we were going to give him a contract at $14 million a year. And then that would bring the Jesse Bates question into the conversation. But
absolutely,
my thing here, okay, I mean, I made a video on it already, and it's getting some pretty decent traction as of right now. But my whole idea is the fact that I think you're okay with where you are. You want to be better, of course. But the reason being is, when you're talking about Chuck Clark as that Malcolm Jenkins type of mold as a safety where you can put him anywhere and be comfortable with it, I think that would be different if you had less trust in your cornerback room, less trust with your linebackers, and less trust with the depth that you have at your defensive line. Because the Eagles were able to upgrade at all three levels of their defense, particularly cornerback, you're not going to need as much safety help as you were before when Slade didn't have somebody on the outside. Avonte Maddox was taken out of position where he was
that's a great point that Jeremiah brought up. That's a great point that he brought up with Maddox.
Yes. So, putting that all into consideration, one of the biggest key factors in an offense trying to diagnose a defense is them watching, in the pass game, of course, but the safety is one of the biggest spots that, that's the spot that's going to give it away. And, quarterbacks always try and use their eyes to misdirect where they want the safety to go to try and find an opening, try to find an opening in a soft spot of the zone. So now that the cornerback spots are secured and you don't have to worry about needing double coverage all the time like before, then guys like Marcus Epps can do their job. Guys like Anthony Harris can have a bit more of a command in keeping everything sound if he's gonna be the guy to address the secondary and keep those guys in line. So you always want to improve, yes. But if you're good enough, considering additions on, closer to the line of scrimmage with the corners, then you can give guys that chance to grow into a mold, much like we're trying to develop a Marcus Epps, like we're trying to develop a Kayvon Wallace, and we keep Andre Sachare on special teams, and Anthony Harris does a better job this year, that he is more comfortable and not having to be dropped down into the box all the time.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think that all that makes sense. I don't really think our secondary is going to be that much of a problem. I really don't think safety is going to be that much of a problem. I think that with Jesse Bates, I won't be surprised, because Howie Roseman is, he's always monitoring situations. So if we start the season and we get to the trade deadline and it's looking like, we're in a good position, but the safeties have not been playing well, I think he's going to monitor the situation. And from what we've seen from him during the offseason, it's been no short of, he's being very, very aggressive. He was aggressive especially in the draft. He also brought in Hassan Reddick, brought in some other guys. So you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he called Cincinnati, and Cincinnati still doesn't have a deal done with him, and they're struggling back there. That's the only real situation I could see it happening. But I think for now, it's probably more than likely we're going to stick with what we got.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. And of course, the biggest clue into maybe something with Jesse Bates is, like I said earlier, and them wanting to give Marcus Williams a contract at $14 million annually. Well, can they really afford Jesse Bates at that? I mean, the answer is yes. I still think they have about $8 million in cap space, and we know Howie, as good of a capologist as he is, if he wants something to happen, he's going to make it happen.
He's got his doctorate in capology.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he wants to be in a spot, like to cut your nose off to spite your face. So I think going forward, especially that the preseason hasn't been here yet, and training camp, and none of that hasn't even started. And, we have seen this Eagles team add people as late as August. We have seen them being active at the trade deadline before. Let's let it gel. Let's let it pan out. See what we have at our skill positions, and if we feel that we need to upgrade them later, then so be it. But I want to see some of these later round picks. I want to see some development there, and a guy like Marcus Epps just continue to improve, year after year, starting in Jim Schwartz's scheme, and then he comes into Jonathan Gannon's. His snap counts seem to go a little bit higher and higher and higher, and he's getting more opportunities to show what he can do on the field. So how about we maximize that potential and see what he's got if he gets the opportunities, placed upon him.
Absolutely. We got a comment from Puerto Rico here that I wanted to bring up. So I definitely want to see some more brutal hits on the opposing teams trying to come through the top end. They need to know that it's not safe and think twice. Absolutely, Puerto Rico. I agree with this comment 100%. And it goes to something that I've been saying for a while, probably since the start of the offseason. What we saw last season from the Eagles, even though statistically in terms of yards allowed and things like that, they weren't that bad. Mm-hmm. What I saw, but to keep it to be as nice as possible, this is unacceptable. What we saw was unacceptable. guys missing tackles, teams running on. People don't run the ball on us, first of all. You do not run the ball on the Philadelphia Eagles. That's why we had one of the most dominant run defenses for many, many years. And that was not the case last year. People were running over us. We had the best rushing offense in the league, so we were also doing it to other people. But that's beside the point. This season, I think the guys that they brought in to improve the defense, especially the linebacker position, grabbing Nakobe Dean, Kaiser White, he had 138 tackles last year with the Chargers. And even Chargers fans have said that defensively he was their third best player probably, behind Bosa and Derwin James. So they shored up that position. The defensive line, I think, is going to go back to being that dominant defensive line. You have Hassan Reddick that they're gonna move him around the defense. He'll probably line up at edge rusher. He'll line up as an outside linebacker as well. They'll move him around, and he can get to the quarterback. Double-digit sacks both of the last 2 years. Fletcher Cox trying to prove he still has something left in the tank. Javon Hargrave had a good year last year. He's looking to improve on that. And then you got Jordan Davis and, Milton Williams being like the two rotational defensive tackles. So all over the defense, there's massive, massive improvement. And I think we're going to go back to seeing a lot of those Jim Johnson type of defenses where our defenses are being feared by the opposing teams that we're going up against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, while we had the talent at, certain spots, while the talent was there was just, because of Jonathan Gannon and some of the personnel limitations. Again, they're not excuses. We're being realistic about it. There was just no intimidation factor with these guys and how they were being deployed, and just letting offenses get whatever they want when they wanted, whether it was through the run or the pass, and how many quarterbacks last year had a completion percentage of 75% or better. I mean, Justin Herbert was near 90. Justin Herbert being near 90 was asinine. I'm sorry. I mean, that's not
as good
winning
as Justin
football.
Herbert is, that was a pathetic performance. Jalen Hurts and the offense, they did their thing. They played a really good game, and we just didn't get a chance because we could not get this guy off the field to save our lives. Same thing with the Chiefs game against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and and pathetic. all the crap that Jalen Hurts is going through right now, and having this ultimately be on him, and the team is going to go as far as the quarterback takes them. Yes, there is some truth to that, but at the end of the day, it's a collaborative effort between the offense, defense, and special teams. You just can't have one side of the ball doing all the work, and then the other one is just laying down and telling the defense is laying down and telling the offense, like, okay, you can get whatever you want, score it however way you want, be explosive, do this, do that. So yeah, no, I mean, that's not to really blame deflect, because surely the offense needed to schematically change because of Hurts's limitations and them having to run the ball a lot more. But the domino effect just continued. The domino effect continued with the downfalls that were as consistent as they were.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Defense definitely going to take a huge step up this year, though, in my opinion. So our next topic is going to be. Go ahead, Lindy.
No, it should. I mean, there's no excuses for Jonathan Gannon. I mean, the biggest thing here that we have to remember, and it's the easiest intel, like, right in front of your face. When the Eagles started out the season, like I said in the very beginning of the show, like 91% of the time they were in zone coverage, and over the course of the season, when they lose Brandon Graham, and then some of their positional groups just died off.
Brandon Graham was such a huge loss for this team.
Massive, and now that he's back, Brandon, he's come. granted, he's coming back off of an Achilles tear. He's 34 years old, so
I think he's still going to be BG.
Yeah, he still will, but respectively, in terms of preservation, you're going to limit his snap count, and that's one of the biggest reasons why they brought in a guy like Jordan Davis, and you're going to see what Milton Williams has. Marlon Tuipulotu, yeah, he went under the radar because he was dealing with a bad hamstring injury, and as a 6th-round pick, but he's just as good as a run stuffer on this defensive line that you would like to have in certain situations, maybe in the rotation next to a Jordan Davis, and being able to control the line of scrimmage and keep those gaps closed so offenses can't run on us. So I mean, I don't know. You look across the board, Hassan Reddick, Kaiser White. You got linebackers at the second level.
I can't wait to see the big packages they're going to have. Like the big run stuff and packages. You're just going to have a bunch of big, huge guys on the defensive line, like on 3rd and short or 4th and 1 or something.
Well, you have more. I mean, you have more versatility across the board now that JG just can't sit there and say, "Oh, I don't have the guys to carry out. I don't have the guys to carry out this. I can't run blitz packages because the players I have, they can't handle it." No, there's no excuses anymore. Alex Singleton's not here anymore. You don't got an Alex Singleton here anymore, and and from the Jim Schwartz era, you don't got a Nate Gary.
Earlier Jeremiah had a typo. It was like I'd love to get Nate, and I was like, please don't tell me this guy's talking about Nate Gary. And then he says, I meant to say Bates. I was like, I was gonna say something to him, but he corrected.
Yeah. No, Whitesnake can stay away.
He can stay out. So also, what we heard this week was the Eagles are going to be holding some joint practices with the Miami Dolphins. I actually think this is a great team for us to be going up against. Because I think this is a great team to be because some of the pieces they have. No, I'm not really the highest person on Mr. Tua, but Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki, and they've got weapons. They've got guys that can really burn you. I mean, we saw how good Jalen Waddle was last year. I believe he had the most receptions by a rookie. So Jalen Waddle was outstanding going up against his former teammate Devontae Smith. There's a little bit of an Alabama reunion. Jalen Hurts and Tua, and a lot of these guys getting back together. But Tyreek Hill can take the top off of anybody. I think going up against our guys, this is going to be a great, great challenge to be able to work against this team. And then going into the season, I think we're going to be ready. I think going up against Miami is going to help us get ready. And, I actually really would love to see, the preseason die down a little bit and then just have teams do their scrimmages in these joint practices. You could have 2 weeks going against one team and 2 weeks going against another team. And then that eliminates the pointless preseason. I'm a huge fan of joint practices, and in particular the team we're going up against. We're not going up against somebody like the Jets, or some garbage team like that. We're going up against the team that actually has some really good players. So I think it's really going to help us out.
At least it wasn't just the Jets last year, and we actually had some with the Patriots too. at least there was that.
Jets, the Patriots post Tom Brady, all these teams. It seems like we're always going against some sorry teams. And I'm not even saying I expect Miami to be this great team this year, but they have some really, really good players that are going to keep us on our toes, and it's going to help our guys be even better.
Absolutely, and I think Miami is the one hosting the joint practices, so the Eagles get to go down to South Beach and have all that nice weather. While it could be pretty darn hot, but still you got some nice conditions for football. There's a very interesting dynamic going on between these two teams. Tua and Hurts were once teammates on the same at the collegiate level with Alabama. I think Hurts did have both at one point. I think he did have both Smith and Waddle to throw to at one point when he was the quarterback for, the Crimson Tide. So you got that dynamic going on there. Smith and Waddle are great friends. You got two top-tier tight ends between Dallas Goedert and Mike Gesicki. Xavier Howard is still there at Miami as the number one corner. Much like now we have Darius Slay and James Bradberry. There is a very nice balance from a competitive standpoint between these two football teams. They're going through minor building transitions, and
100%.
it's all around a great combination and from a competitive standpoint to see what these two teams are building going into the regular season, see what they're made of, and get them prepared to want to have their own respected playoff pushes.
Absolutely agree, man. So these joint practices are going to be amazing. It's going to be an amazing season for the Eagles, so long as everyone can stay healthy, of course. But, yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this episode.
I'll ask one thing, though.
Yeah,
Can we not get overexcited again when Jalen Reagor makes another one-handed catch in one-on-one?
He's like a Hall of Famer in practice, man. Like, the team was hyping him up, posting like the one-handed catch on Twitter and Instagram. When Jalen Reagor hears the words, when he hears the words joint practice, I don't know, something just takes him over. But when the regular season comes, this guy he turns into Thunderstruck, like the movie where the kid and Kevin Durant switched, and Kevin Durant just became trash.
That's right. Much like he lost Jordan shoes and like Mike.
Yeah, same thing pretty much. Like this guy just, as soon as he leaves joint practice, summer June, July, August, when it gets to September, this guy's just like, you know what, I'm good. I'll see y'all later.
Him and Ortega-Whiteside are famous for that. So,
Jalen Payton.
Yeah, let's not do that again. Please.
Appreciate you, Coach Dante. Thanks for coming in, bro. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. If you guys don't mind leaving a like for us as we get up out of here. This was brought to you by the Sideline Sports Network. Make sure you guys go check out them and check out all the great shows that are going on as well as the Gauntlet podcast, which you guys are familiar with. But, Linda, you got anything that you're working on that you want to let the people know where they can find you and all that kind of stuff?
Nothing that I can necessarily say at the moment that's in the works, other than I'm always looking for fresh faces and content creators for my channel to keep my series Touchdown Talk going. I'll be at episode 16. Episode 15 did feature Coach Dante, which was a very good presentation.
Yes,
lasted about an hour and a half. We covered the Eagles and we covered the Houston Texans and how the level of excitement between both draft classes pretty much mirrored each other in different ways. So it was an exciting time. But episode 16, looking for more fresh faces to the channel. And other than that, this has been a overwhelmingly fantastic opportunity that I've received, to do this podcast with you and be a part of Sideline Sports. So I wanted to shout out some, extra graces of appreciation and being a part of this to do it.
Absolutely, man. And I'll say it to anybody that doesn't know, I'll just reiterate it as we get off of here. If you don't know the name Sideline Sports, if you don't know it now, you will know it one day. You will know it soon. And that's all I'm going to say, guys. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. We will be back for another episode. You can catch us every Friday talking about all things Eagles related. Fridays, 8 o'clock. Mark your calendars. Mark them down. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. See you next time.